Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? I had to say it again because the first one was not on video. But yeah, the sun's kind of in my eyes a little bit when I like go up like that. The blind thing, like I don't know if you can see, but it just will not. They will not shut. So we got this nice little light of ray of sunshine. But I talk about the same stuff a lot. Like I really do, and especially when I'm talking and not many people, and I talk about the same stuff, it feels like. But it kind of was like that thing I was thinking, okay, about the difference between living in the past and living, and like kind of moving on, living towards the future, or like kind of, in a sense, I think I probably talked about this, probably have, but we'll do it again anyways, why not? But the difference between, you could say you're living in the future, but are you really? Like, are you still kind of clinging to it, or are you like kind of moving on? I feel like it's really easy to cling to something, and in my case, I find it super easy to cling to the past because, to call it blunt, I mean, I guess specifically like 2 or so years ago, but like life, like it just felt a lot better. I think, and it's not even one of those things where I'm like, it's not even thing like where I got a bunch of anxiety or, oh, I got this or that and all that stuff. Like I've never felt better about myself. What I'm just getting at is of like what I'm feeling outside of myself. Like that stuff has kind of, I mean, like, I hate bringing this up constantly, but Dad died. So once that happened, it went like this. That feeling outside, and as my internal feeling got better, the outside got worse. So it was kind of like an inverse thing. But my internal you can only determine so much by how much you feel inside. Like, okay, you can feel great inside, but if you're like in the middle of like Russia by yourself and like starving or something like that, and you're like trying to get by like hunting wolves, like you're probably not gonna feel as good as you could if you're in a loving relationship with a bunch of kids and you're like chilling in a spot in like Hawaii or something like that. Like there's certain factors to it. If there wasn't any factors that external happiness is like that, then literally then the crime and hurting and all that stuff that wouldn't be a thing. So it's one of those things where internally I've been feeling good, but the externally has gone like this. And we had like a little thing of hope with the thing I talked about, the love and all that stuff. We had a little bit where it went like it skyrocketed and then it fell farther down than it did before. So, okay. So you got that in mind. I'm not trying to be soft or anything. It's literally just what's coming to my brain. But with all that in mind, it's tough for me to live in the now because the now, it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I need to work on all this stuff. I need to grow. I need to figure out this. But there's a lot of it that feels like, okay, I've kind of got to a point where you can only do so much in terms of like making you feel a certain way. So I'm like, I kind of feel good about myself. So it's weird to feel good about yourself, but then everything else seem like a complete train wreck or whatever in terms of how I feel. Not necessarily saying that, like whatever, but just in the way I feel, everything else is kind of, I don't know. I love using the metaphors, but I can't really think of one. But it's like, it's kind of like a rose in the middle of a fucking like wasteland. Demonetized. It's kind of like that, where it feels like I got that hope. Like I have that belief, I have that whatever. Like and I know who I am, I know all that stuff, but it doesn't change the fact that damn, that life outside of me, it's just like the feeling I'm getting from it, it's just not whatever. So it's so weird because I was so used to growing up and having that thing where I didn't feel good about myself, anxiety, like all that kind of stuff. I just felt terrible, thought I was nothing, thought I was whatever. And then so for that not to be the case anymore, I don't know what to like. It's like I don't really know necessarily what to do with. Like I feel good about myself. I mean, like I said, a lot of room for improvement and stuff like that. But I never felt better about myself. So it's so strange to have that feeling, but then like that other stuff to like not have that. It's so weird, and that's what I'm saying. Like moving on thing. When I feel this way, I'm like, how do I? It's really tough for me to not think back or like put myself back in the spot or like think or like whatever, like dream or whatever. Whenever I think about it, to go revert back instead of being now, because the now it just feels kind of hollow in a lot of ways. Like got great family, got great friends and all stuff, but at a certain point, it feels like life is being like, hey, buddy, you got to go through some. It can't always be dandelions and rainbows. So, and I've seen the beauty in that. So I can see why. Like I understand I need to go through it. Anything I've done, me talking to you guys, me talking in the way that I'm talking to you guys, me doing any of this is only because of how life has been during those times I'm talking about. If life was like, oh, I'm not doing any of this, nothing. So I understand that, but it also is one of those things where it's or even understanding it, it's still tough to be in this spot without my mind drifting back or drifting to this, drifting to that. Like honestly, just genuinely, just like in any time of the day or whatever, it's like that. It's like what do I even think about, or what do I like when it's like when it feels like genuinely like what do I when the care when like all the emotion, all that kind of stuff is kind of almost waiting for something. It's tough for me to not revert back to the times where the emotions were emotioning, or where there was feeling, where I love. It's tough to not revert back to that constantly and think about that, or like because like when I write, I journal a few times a day and stuff like that. And when I write, like I'm not like writing about like, oh, today I felt nothing but I had peace. I actually have written about that, but it's mostly writing about like, oh, remember this time, or oh that, or oh, going through this stuff led to this, or oh I'm glad I'm in this situation. Like I'm kind of talking in terms of a continual process, like the process I'm going through, or that I feel like I'm going through, in terms of almost becoming someone different. Like my personality is the same, but everything else is kind of changing. And so it's so tricky though, because I'm like, damn, like I thought having peace and feeling good and all that stuff. Like I remember back when 4 or 5, however 6, whatever, how many years ago, thinking like, okay, when I'll feel good about myself, when I'll do it out, like when I'll have that kind of whatever, I'm sure that'll be after being in a relationship or having kids or having this. It's so weird for that to be the thing that I'm feeling, but then everything else is like really, really like like testing me. It's really testing, really patience, I think is the biggest one. Patience is a big thing. That's why it's tough to move on for me, and why I can understand for me is because I feel like I gotta be patient, because there's not really much in the now that's nearly as appealing as stuff I felt back when. Like being in love, I'm telling you, is one of the best possible things. And for me, okay, dad, love, he was like love, joy, that he was all that quantified into something. So when that, now when I get some of those pieces back to my life and have that, it is like, it's like being on drugs, and then the rest of life is just me like just eating broccoli. Like I don't know how to compare it. It's very obvious when I feel or I have the stuff that I used to feel. It's very obvious. So then how do I not get in a space where I'm thinking about trying to get back to the place where I feel that stuff? Like it's one of those things where I'm like, I know I got to be present, but I also really want to feel that stuff again. So I'm like, that's why I like do so much failing, is because I'm trying to get to a place where I can get to a spot where I'm feeling this stuff again, and I understand, hey, it's not an easy road. It's not what I thought it was going to be, which is good. But it also makes me at times like, I don't know, it's tough for me to be like really like stay like kind of like, okay, just be here, just do whatever. Like I think my family or people get like I do my own thing a lot out of the desire to try and figure my stuff out, because I want to get to the spot of feeling stuff again. If I felt great, I'm sure I'd be making myself busy or doing whatever else a lot more. And I'm doing it more than I used to, but a lot of the time that I spend alone is really mainly, obviously I like watch YouTube or TikToks or whatever the hell, but a lot of it is trying to figure out myself and get all my stuff, get all my cards, whatever, organized, so that I can get to a spot where I'm ready to feel the stuff again. Because I know I have the long road to go, and I know there's a lot of stuff, aspects of myself that I need to learn and grow and stuff like that. So I know that. So I'm like, I just want to get that spot. And I understand, it's been like 4.5 years since my dad died, and I was bringing him up, and I took him on, and they're like, you can't live in that, you can't bring up that, and all this stuff, and 100% understand. But when there's been a constant string outside of a few weeks of feeling the exact same thing for 4.5 years, it's really tough not to bring up the thing that started that thing, because that thing has carried along for half a decade. My entire adulthood has been a direct result of that thing happening. And outside of like a blip, like, you know, like those emergency things when someone's like dying or whatever, and there's like the that's I had that bleep thing, and that was it. So trying to like think about, okay, what did I lose? Like what is the part that shut down all this thing? What's the part that caused all this? So I think back to that a lot, and that also makes it tough to be present, because it feels like I'm trying to like think about, like, trying to figure out things that I can't just figure out, like, it's not meant to be figured out. I mean, obviously it's been 5 years. I've not figured it out yet. Well, I'll give myself some credit. I have been, and obviously it's all God, it's all trusting, believing, and like that there's a purpose and having that kind of stuff. but I've changed a lot. I've done a lot of stuff. Like, it's not like I've been doing nothing. And I'm sure for many of you guys, like, it's not like you've been doing nothing. Like, you do stuff. And I see like glimpses, I get like whatever thing of what it could be. So then, but it's like, it's so blurry. Like, it's like when when old people tries to read a menu, whatever, and you're like, and they're like, that's like me trying to look at the future, trying to figure out anything. Like, literally, people talk about like, oh, I don't really know, I don't think I'm telling you, anything, love, career, where I'm gonna live. I just said career, but like how long I'm gonna live, like we'll have kids, we'll have this, all that stuff. And I'm thinking not even in terms of like when or whatever. Like, I don't even know. I'm trying to be real, but it also, there's like certain points where I'm like, it's a little dark. But like talking about like thinking realistically, okay, whatever. My grandpa, straight from the bloodline, went to like 67, whatever, pretty, not terrible, whatever. Dad, 55. So, obviously, I've decent good genes on the other side and stuff like that. So I could, whatever, but you never really know. So I'm not in the business of trying to push things off. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm very much like, and when you're like this, when you like, and I wasn't like this until Dad died, also in reality check. But when it's in that, it's really tough to be like still, because you're like, oh, I need to do this because I want to get this stuff figured out, because I want to be having this whatever stuff like that for whatever life I have, because I don't know whatever life I'm gonna have. And it's not like a doom. Like, I'm really not scared of death. I'm not scared of death. It's actually, how little I'm scared of death is probably a bigger concern than me actually being scared of death. And it's not like I'm doing anything. Trust me, we're chilling there. But it's that I'm like, I feel like I need to do so much, that at times it is tough for me to be still and to like just not do anything. And at points, I get so overwhelmed by trying to do so much that I don't do anything. Sure, you guys can do whatever. You just, I do videos. I'll try to learn how to sing. I'll go on the runs or do this, like all these different stuff. And when a lot of those stuff, like when videos do bad, when you're like hurt like a foot or something like that, and so it can't run. When all that stuff kind of happens, all that stuff kind of crumbles, then you're sitting there and you're like, oh damn, like it's just tough, because I so desperately want to be somewhere else in plenty of aspects, but I know I can't. I gotta be where I'm at in whatever things with rubbers and whatever right now. Like, there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, I gotta, like, it's one of those deep internal things where like I can't quite, like, it almost feels like I can't move on, or I need to move on, but I also can't push off or like pretend like the dad stuff didn't happen. And it's really easy for me at times to pretend, to like almost like try and live like it didn't, when in reality it's shaping my entire life. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I started this initially being like, okay, Pete, you got to move on and stuff like that, but you also got to understand the past kind of shapes you, so you don't want to let it kind of like, you don't want to ignore it. There's an aspect of it, you want it almost like, I feel like it's saying, you want it to like kind of like allow you, like push you further to grow. Like, what I see is like when any person's overlooked me, or like getting like bullied, or got like a girl, like whatever, like any kind of stuff, I've always had the mindset of like, I'm not like mad, I'm not like I'm not gonna be like, oh, they didn't like me or whatever. I'm gonna be like, you know what? It's just a little extra motivation. Like, in those trains or whatever, the railroad things, like add a little coal to that fire. Like, it just adds a little bit more. And it makes me more motivated. And so when it comes to like losing a dad or getting rejected or this and that, it honestly just motivates me more. And so that's why I'm in this spot where I'm like, I want to do so much that even though I'm doing like a decent bit, like I'm doing stuff, not a bunch of stuff, but I'm doing some stuff. It feels like I'm doing nothing, because I know what I could do, and I'm so motivated to do such things that it's like being present is really, really tough. So I don't know if anyone else is in similar blood, or being tough is, or being still is tough, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like I've talked about 15 different things at once. So I'm like, literally, I was in the process of like thinking I should end this video and then come up with the title, and then what would that title even be? And I'm like, okay, let's be honest here, 30 views. Do they really care what title it is? But I don't want to use the same title. And oh, maybe one day I'll do pop off and people watch this video and then they'd be like, what the title? The title is I think a lot, and I think too much for my own good a lot of times, but I also think enough to think about new things constantly and thinking. So I'm like, there's dual elements to everything that happens. There's love, sadness. Oh, I'm really in love with someone. Break up. Oh, I'm really sad. Fall in love. Like, it's like there's dual elements to what's happening in life, and so it's important to not ignore this stuff. So like when you move on, like all this stuff, and like, oh, they broke up with me, but I'm gonna be okay and stuff like that. No, it's important to go through the process of processing this stuff and allow it to kind of like guide you ahead. Like it's a little like when someone pushes the boat further, like you're on a boat or whatever, and someone pushes you, and you're kind of like, okay, now go, now get some speed. Like it's kind of like that. You don't want it to necessarily, you don't want to ignore it, pretend it didn't happen, but you also want it to like kind of get you to the next spot. Like instead of like yourself kind of going back and being pushed back from it. So yeah, the whole idea of this video is just, yeah, don't let the past kind of hold you back. I probably made a video with that title, but yeah, I hope you all are doing well. I love you all, guys. See you guys next time, and peace out.